Welcome to Coffee and Conversation. My name is Honorine, and today I'm with Cameron Gerhold, who is pursuing a medical degree. Cameron, thank you for being with me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Let's start with a little introduction.
All right, so I grew up in Slidell, Louisiana, which is a small town outside of New Orleans. And when I was about 13 years old, I was a freshman in high school at the time. My dad got a job in Florida, which it ended up being kind of the best / worst thing that's ever happened. And I say that because it's sad to leave my family, all my aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents behind because they're all from Louisiana, and moved to Florida where I don't know anyone. So it's a fresh start at a young age. But then it ended up being one of the best things that's ever happened because A, I love Florida, but B, it allowed me to realize my dream of becoming a physician. And I say that because growing up, I was always super afraid of hospitals. Even my yearly pediatrician visits, I couldn't stand. It was cold, it was scary. I didn't know what was going on. I'm like, Mom, can we not do this every year? And I was always really afraid of getting my blood drawn, I just thought it was gross. And then when I moved to South Florida, my high school actually had a service hour requirement. And I think we had to reach 25 service hours a year. And you can volunteer anywhere in the community. And I talked to my dad and he said, why don't you volunteer at the hospital? That would be a really great way to just get hours really quick. And I'm thinking, I don't really like hospitals, but I'll do it. Yeah, you're right. That is a good, quick way to get it done. And I volunteered in the emergency department. And day one, I was there at 8 a.m. And within the first hour, it was so chaotic, but I realized I need to be doing this forever. Watching the patients interact with the physicians and the nurse practitioners and the nurses, I realized that I wanted to work in healthcare because there's really nothing more personal than being someone's physician or being in their care team. So I thought, you know what, hospitals aren't so bad. And this is something that I need to look into further. So I volunteered in several departments. I shadowed some heart catheterization procedures, which are really interesting to watch. I also volunteered in the radiology department, and of course the emergency department. So I kind of shadowed around. And at the same time, I was getting volunteer hours. So what started off as a 25 service hour requirement ended up being closer to 200 or 300 hours spent over the course of a summer. And I realized, what I want to do for the rest of my life. So moving to Florida was an excellent decision on my dad's part in hindsight. But of course, at the time, I'm really, I don't want to leave all my friends. But yeah, so once I moved to Florida, I attended several high schools. I ended up spending my senior year of high school in Gainesville, Florida. And my parents still live there now. And after touring all the Florida schools, I really loved Florida State. It just stood out to me. And I'm really glad that I obtained my undergraduate degree from there. So I ended up going to Florida State. I got a degree in biology with a minor in chemistry, and that's right up my alley. All throughout high school, even middle school, science was definitely my favorite class. I was really good at it. So I knew I had to, on top of going into healthcare, I wanted to obtain a bio degree. So I worked on that. And then throughout my time at FSU, I was a part of several organizations. I was in Delta Zeta, which is a sorority on campus, and I was on the Alpha board as the campus and community outreach chair. So I worked with about 200 individuals in my sorority to find local volunteer opportunities, also research opportunities, just ways to get involved in the community and help out the Tallahassee community. So that was a great opportunity. I also worked at the Leach, which is the main on-campus gym, which was by far the highlight of my time at FSU as an undergrad. I still miss those days. And I say that because it was the best job. I actually wrote workout programs for people that came into Leach. And then they would come back, 8 weeks later, hey, I need a new program. I've seen so much progress with this one. Can you write me a new one? And I'd be like, yeah, of course, sure. But also a lot of my coworkers I'm still really good friends with today. So that's just like, can't even, it's priceless really working at Leach, and I still go there. I went there this morning at 6 a.m. My roommate and I go to Leach all the time. So that's the go-to gym, and I'm going to miss it because next year I'm actually moving to Daytona. So I'm currently a second-year medical student at Florida State. So I've had a 6-year run in Tallahassee. And then I was placed at the Daytona regional campus. So basically in medical school, our 3rd and 4th years, they put us at a campus, and it can be Tallahassee, but they also can place us in Sarasota, Orlando, Marianna, Thomasville, Georgia, Daytona, Pensacola, and I don't think I'm missing, Fort Pierce. So I was placed in Daytona, and I'm really excited to be moving there. But yeah, yeah.
So you did so many volunteering at the hospital. How is that? How is that possible? You just kind of volunteer and you just go there and say, I would like to volunteer, and you shadow people, or what's the procedure?
That's a good question. A lot of hospitals, they have volunteer coordinators. So at this hospital in high school, I reached out to their volunteer coordinator. I said, hi, like I'm a sophomore in high school and I really want to start volunteering at the hospital. Like, what's the process for that? And sometimes they have some hospitals that I volunteered at, they'll send you a packet to read and then you take a quiz after. And if you could pass the quiz, you're good to go. And it's a lot of like common sense things like, don't misbehave, like basic stuff, but also they have a lot of really good stuff in there, like, what to do if a patient falls, what's the proper way to catch a patient? Because if there's a patient that's, 200 pounds heavier than you, there's, you're just going to hurt yourself and the patient if you try to catch them. So there's a certain procedure, like you can, slide down a wall, like you can catch the patient and then back up against a wall and just slide down so that you're not hurting yourself as much. And then the patient's not falling onto the floor. So different procedural type stuff. But even the hospitals in Tallahassee, it's really easy to get in. If you want to get involved, you can get involved is my biggest takeaway throughout undergrad, throughout medical school. And it never hurts to reach out. And there's always people looking for help. If I could give any kind of advice, it's that for sure. But in Tallahassee, I actually, while I was an undergraduate student, I was part of Tallahassee Memorial's Healthcare's mobility clinic, or they might call it mobility team now. I think it changed, I'm not sure. But basically I had green scrubs was our uniform, not the most flattering, but and I would go to the, there's like a triage on each floor, and I'd go up and I'd say, hi, like, are there any patients that you want me to assist with walking? Or are there any patients that need to stand up and get moving? Because the reason this clinic was started, or this team was started, is because they found patients who were able to get up and get moving faster. They had a quicker recovery time.
Cool. So talking about research, as part of your program, do you do any type of research?
Yes. So at FSU College of Medicine, research isn't required, but to get into a lot of residency programs after medical school, a lot of them do, I say, require research. They look for it. They want to see that you've done it. But usually you don't need like a long, exhaustive list of like tens of hundreds of research projects, But I have done research at FSU. My research project over the summer, I looked at different surgical repair techniques for quad and patellar tendon ruptures. So basically your quad tendon connects your kneecap or your patella to your quad muscle. Your patellar tendon sits below your patella and connects to the front of your shin. And so when those rupture, it's super debilitating. Basically, you can't walk, it's super painful. So as you can imagine, it's something that needs to be fixed pretty urgently. And they're fixed the same way. There's only a couple of repair techniques out there, but there's no consensus on what's the better repair technique for those types of ruptures. So that's what I sought out to find. But because those procedures aren't super common, there's not a lot of patients that have gone through those procedures. So I'm working on expanding my cohort right now. But it's still really great. I've been able to present it twice, or well, I split the group into quad tendon repairs and patellar tendon repairs, and I presented each separately so far. But hopefully I can get a paper going and get that published eventually. So.
And besides research in school and fishing, what do you like to do on your spare time?
I love working out. I love working out. Like I said, I wrote workout programs for people throughout undergrad, but I've always loved powerlifting. I say powerlifting. I don't ever bench press, but I love deadlifting. I love squatting, and I love going to the gym with my friends. So I'm super into that, and I've been into that for a long time, since high school. I've always been really athletic. Throughout middle school, I was on the cheer team and the dance team, and then in high school, I did cross country, track, cheer, which is way too much. I don't know how I ever got sleep in high school from all that. And then in college, I worked at the gym, so that was really nice. But I also really love hiking. My dad and I were super into hiking. He got a GoPro a couple of years ago. And so every time we go hiking, now I have videos and I make like little iMovies of it. Sometimes I'll upload it to YouTube and send it to him, and he thinks it's like the greatest thing. So I'm like, Dad, check out this hike we did. Currently we're working on the Appalachian Trail. We've hiked about 200 miles of it, which is nothing. I mean, that doesn't even put a dent in the trail. I think it's like 3,600 miles. So we have a ways to go. But also this past summer, we went up to Wyoming, to Yellowstone, Grand Tetons National Park. We did some phenomenal hiking out there. I mean, the weather was perfect, like no bugs, like the views are incredible. So I love mountains. So anytime there's mountains, I want to go. But yeah, that was absolutely amazing. And then we've also done a lot of hiking in Rocky Mountain National Park and the Smoky Mountains, which is right there in Tennessee. So yeah, incredible. But my dad's my biggest hiking buddy for sure.
Where did you see yourself in 5 years from today?
Oh, that's a good question. 5 years from today, I'll be graduated from medical school. I'll be 3 years into residency. 5 years from today, I hope that I'm in a residency program where, you know, I love the area and other residents of the program are super welcoming, super friendly, which I don't think I'll have a problem with that. All the residents I've met so far in different fields are just phenomenal. But I hope that I pick a specialty that I absolutely adore. Hopefully I get married. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, 5 years from now, that's my goal. Finish medical school, be a happy resident. Yeah.
Fun. That's super exciting. Well, thank you so much for your time, for this great interview. It was great to get to know you better.
Thank you so much. It was so nice meeting you.